Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to this week's edition of the Digital Shop Talk Radio. Got a great one for you. We're welcoming back Devin Kelley from All Star Automotive in Columbia, Missouri. And if you guys remember last time we had Devin on, we talked about, he was the guy, he's the shop owner that bought a shop with Auto Vitals in it, had to figure it out on the fly. And then from there, remember, boo, it was a rocket ship of success. And so excited to have him back on. And today what we're going to be talking about is how to manage that success, right? Because, it's a double-edged sword, right? You sit there and you're thinking to yourself, gosh, I need more cars. I need more cars. And if you're filling your days with cars with, coupons for oil changes, at the end of the month, you're just digging a hole, right? And so the key to that success is being able to manage it. You manage your efficiency and productivity. And so we've got the master of efficiency on with us today, Devin Kelley. Welcome, Devin. A long intro, but glad to have you back on, buddy.
I'm excited to be on the show. Thanks for having me. Thanks,
yeah.
Tom.
So let's jump right in. Of course, man, you're welcome all the time. And, and just another shout out real quick is that Devin will be doing a breakout. We'll be talking more in detail about this at Digital Shop Conference next month. So come out to Santa Monica, Marina Del Rey and see him. But how did it work out for you? Because that's a problem, right? When you look at your metrics, Devin, you guys, you've probably pretty much doubled. It looks like your revenue, I would say, over the last couple of years. Did you double your staff? Did you double the size of your business? Or how did you manage that success?
We have a smaller staff than what there was at the beginning of the transition of companies, actually. We had a lot of really high performers. I was extremely blessed to have some amazing people on this team. It's just incredible what they do. And we also had some people that weren't as high performers, and they were affecting the high performers quite a bit. And once we started to figure out what the culture was going to be, what it was going to feel like, who we were going to be, we noticed that the lower performers didn't really fit in as well. And in some ways naturally, in some ways not. The culture ended up with the more of the high performers on board. So we needed less people overall, and just letting the high performers do their thing without getting pulled in different directions by some of the other people. So that was one aspect. It was actually less people.
So kind of the first step, you went in and you kind of had to, thin the weeds a little bit. Yeah. And just kind of, and just get some of the impediments, some of the obstacles out of the way so that you can get, like you said, it starts at culture. And we talk a lot about that on this show, is that it really starts at culture. And if you open the door to your staff and you give them the big picture, you'd be surprised at how much they're willing to come pull the rope with you. But so now that you've got that adjustment, it's still, we can only get so much work done in a day with all of the challenges that from a scheduling perspective and parts deliveries and availability of equipment and lanes. How do you manage that? Now that you got the strong team in place, you still got to do a lot of work to get to those peak numbers like you're showing.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it comes down to the communication that we have. We do bi-weekly shop meetings, and we talk about things much more frequently than that, of course, but in a formal way, we do a shop meeting every other week, and I'll have an agenda where we go over certain topics, and that's extremely productive. I think a lot of the beneficial communication that we have comes from just being very open to new information from anybody and everybody inside the shop, outside the shop. I'm always excited to hear different people's perspective. I may not always agree, or I may not even know if I agree or not in the beginning. I'm a really analytical person, so I just like perspective.
Yeah.
It's just incredible what's possible when you accept perspective from everybody in the shop. It doesn't matter who it is. When they have something to say, I really try to actively listen and take it to heart, because that's how some amazing changes have come about. And so through communication, being open to everybody's input is, I think, one thing that's been really, really powerful.
Yeah, open ears and open eyes, right? My granddaddy told me a long time ago, right, is if you want to be successful, do what successful people do. And you'd be surprised when you just talk to people and get their input and get their perspective of something. They're all experts, right? Everybody you hire is an expert in what their role is. And so who better to get information and, input from than those experts, right? And then, you know,
Yeah.
because it's hard, you know, a lot of times, right? Especially for shops that are struggling out there. You think that, you know, you got to consolidate it and you got to control it and hold on to it instead of opening it up and looking at those other perspectives. I guess maybe that's where Dustin came up with "It Takes a Village" from that other last episode. But I guess it does, you
Yeah.
know, from a cultural perspective inside of your operation.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I talk to my team and I've got an idea of something I want to do, I I always know I'm not going to necessarily just implement an idea. It's going to take a lot of active communication to get something done. In fact, just recently I had a call with Bill Connor, and we were talking about some things that would be a great idea to implement on our digital inspection process pertaining to the information we put on pictures. And our team wasn't getting notes on the pictures every time. And so we were talking about what kind of information we should have, how we should approach it. And when we did our shop meeting, I went to implement, I had some pretty specific things I wanted to implement. And through discussion with my shop, I could tell really quickly that we're kind of in the baby steps of putting notes on pictures. And so I better start really simple because I'm getting from them that they're a bit overwhelmed. And I know that I feel like in my mind, what Bill and I came up with is just the most efficient possible thing. And I would see like 90% increase, but if I don't have the buy-in, it's actually going to be probably more like 10%, and it'd be, very infrequently. So with their input, we came up with a concept that was more simple, that more came from them. And I know in my mind, it may not get the same results, at least initially, but because the buy-in is so high, they're implementing like crazy and it's already having a positive impact. So that's something really important that I try to keep in mind.
Yeah, I just saw that in your BCP, because you can, it's really incredible, really, when you look into your data, because you can see there's some work that you did with Bill, and then boom, the metric just shoots up and it stays really stable. In other words, you can tell that it's stuck and that it's adopted. It wasn't one of those, hey, we tried it out and then, oh, it's difficult. And that's really brilliant advice that you're giving right there, right? Is that because you can have the best process in the world, right? I can go steal McDonald's process and I'm going to put it into my, my burger stand, and then whoosh, it's complete chaos because we just flipped the apple cart, right? Even though that's a very proven process. And so, and for folks out there listening, that applies to more than just, the best practices for taking the inspection or what the service writer's doing, marking up the inspection results. It applies to even how you walk around the vehicle, how you do the inspection, what's the flow around the vehicle, what's the flow around the vehicle for the different types of inspections that you have on the technician's tablet, right? And if you get that technician's involvement, again, they know best how they're going to be most efficient walking around that vehicle and using the lift and getting what the information that they need for the service writer, and then incorporate that exactly, in baby steps, exactly like what Devin said, is that then they're the experts at it. It was their idea, and they're gonna take to it like fish to water. So how are you tracking that stuff, Devin? How are you keeping your eye on the success? And then what are you doing? What are you looking for? What triggers do you see inside of your efficiency metrics or any of your other production metrics that says, hey, I need to address this at one of my shop meetings?
So it can depend on exactly what's happening in the shop at the time. As shop owners, we tend to want to put fires out. We're all guilty of that. And I try to routinely go back over all my different pieces of data, just because I do, like everybody, get focused on one thing or another. I want to see our average repair order hit a certain point, or hours per repair order. And I just try to make sure I look over everything. Each week I go through and calculate our gross profit margin. And I'd say I try not to look everything daily, because that's micromanaging, and nobody likes to be micromanaged. We don't even like to micromanage ourselves if we really think about it. It's good to look back from a little bit further away sometimes. And so in that, I just mean I'm not checking all of our key performance indicators every single day unless I am diagnosing a problem like a technician. But at least every couple of weeks, I'm going back and looking at average repair order, things like that. And I think productivity is something that I look at pretty frequently, weekly, absolutely, and actually daily, because we try to track things in live time through like the tech view screen through Auto Vitals. And when I'm looking at productivity, I think about the week and what happened, and I try to sort out what was circumstantial, what's within our control, what's not. Is this a trend, good or bad? Because we've had certain key performance indicators that have just taken off like a rocket, and then I'll see some volatility. And so, it's important to look at it in the big picture and figure out what changes can we make that are going to be sustainable in a positive direction. And when I see productivity every week, it helps me understand, how are things really flowing? Because that just tells us so much, everything from how fast our parts are getting there, how accurately we're diagnosing cars, how well we can work through all of the challenges that pop up in a day. So I think productivity is one that I look at quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's like you said, it's like jumping on the scale every day, just drive you nuts. Ah, gosh, I'm not losing any weight. And so kind of overdoing it from a metrics perspective too can give us a confusing signal. It can worry you unnecessarily, right? Because some of those things are pretty fast moving, and there can be fluctuations, and longer the trend, the better the information. But from a productivity perspective, when you're looking, when you are given instruction to your technicians inside of those shop meetings, do you set a goal? Like, are you saying, hey, here's where we're at? Today we're going to focus on, let's say we're going to focus on sales, or even selling like the quick win stuff. We're going to sell maintenance. And then do you give them a goal from a productivity and an efficiency perspective out of the data? Or do you just kind of have a ballpark that your machine is running the best in, and then try to manage it that way?
Both. As a really analytical person, I'm always looking at different perspectives, and I look at it both ways. I know this year we've been selling a little over 200 hours a week, and we'll discuss that in a shop meeting. We'll discuss, our goal has been like 145 hours, and we crush that week after week. So we'll look at, bringing that goal a little bit higher, raising the bar more and more. And in the shop meeting, we'll talk about where was last week and where was our goal. And, luckily we've been discussing how we've been crushing that goal. And so it does help them to have that target number, just to know what good looks like, because we don't want to just be running 100 miles an hour, not knowing, are we running fast? Are we running slow? There's nothing to compare it to. So we'll talk about a goal that way.
And that's a great way to scale, right? Because then you just incrementally, you just got to beat last week. And so you incrementally scale that goal. And what's happening is you're scaling your operation, right? And you find yourself at capacity. And then how do you scale beyond that? Are you, because once you have, right? I mean, that's a great gift, right? Once you have a process and a team, and you can build the culture and you can build the process, you really have all the winning components. So do you add more operations? Are you open longer in the week? And are you able to see, and do you need to change a process for weekenders versus during the week, and across seasons, right? In your seasonality, I'm sure you get some seasonality where you're at in Missouri. And
Absolutely.
does your plan fit in the summer and in the winter?
That's a great question. And we only really have just now a year's worth of data for the way this machine is performing. And so I won't get too deep into some of that planning. I'd like to see a couple years data to feel like I'm making really efficient plans. But year after year, even in my past shop, I do see some similarities. So we can do some preparation. And so as far as building from there, if you were to look at scaling or something like that, I think I would need to have my bench really full. What I mean by that is that the guys sitting on the sidelines who are saying, I'm just waiting on a call from All Star Automotive for when it's my time to step up and join the team. And if we had enough people on the bench, I feel like there's a lot of what we do that's really scalable, but none of it would be possible without the type of people that we have currently. So if we get enough people on the bench that fit our culture, it would make another location a lot more feasible.
Yeah, that's a great, and that's a great point too, because when you build that strong culture, then you're able to get, your team will refer in people that they know, and they're going to put, there's going to be no stronger critic or verifier of those new hires than the people in that team, because they
Sure.
don't want to get that hung around their neck. You brought in this bum into, well, we had a great thing going here, right? And so they're really going to be stronger and harsher, more harsh critics, I think, if you can get that type of referral. Are you incentivizing your guys to get out and find you your next All-Star at All-Star?
Yeah. Last week I had put out in our Facebook team chat for All-Star that I'm offering $200 cash if somebody refers a new hire in and they end up getting hired. I think they all know the benefit is much larger than that because we're down a couple positions right now in the shop and they feel that daily. That's a lot of stress. So they realize the reward is so much bigger than that, but it's kind of nice to have that short-term incentive also because it maybe puts it in their mind just a little bit more outside of the shop. So if they're at the grocery store and come across a cashier and they're like, wow, that person just knocked it out of the park and all they did was bag my groceries, they might just keep their name in mind. So that's one thing that I've done here recently is offer a cash reward if somebody's hired based on their recommendation.
Yeah, sure. And so a couple spots down, and so you got those guys actively looking. Well, I'll tell you what, if you're anywhere within driving range of Columbia, Missouri, and you're watching this, you should get on the phone to Devin because I couldn't imagine a better place to work. Super strong culture and just very highly successful shop. So Devin, let me ask you this. What are we talking about when you come out to conference? What are you going to have for listeners? I know a lot of people out there want to come out and meet you in person. What are you going to be talking about out at conference?
About the pitfalls of becoming a digital shop, being a shop that didn't have a digital inspection process and does now. This is my second shop that does digital inspections, and I've used a couple different companies to implement digital inspections. And so it's given me some pretty good perspective. And I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. Learning auto vitals the way I did, that was challenging, just jumping in like you referenced. And there was a lot of things I needed to do within All-Star culture-wise and physically in the building to really make it flow well for us. And we'll be talking about some of those challenges. What are some mistakes you can avoid very easily that can save a lot of time and money? And I've got a little list that I'm compiling. I like to talk to a lot of shop owners that aren't digital and some that are. I think sometimes some of our expectations going digital can be unrealistic. It's important to know what is realistic and some simple things like your internet capacity. What should we have? What do we have? And how's it actually performing? How does it perform on one side of the shop compared to the other? It's just such a simple thing. But if you were to implement the digital inspection process and not have some of those key pieces in place, it's going to cause a lot of pain and may affect the buy-in of your staff.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things that we'll be talking about.
Yeah, that's all. That's worth the price of admission right there, right? Is if I'm able to get somewhere, spend a nice weekend in a sunny place and learn all of the things to avoid on my path to success, thank you very much. Hopefully I can record it and take it home. So that's fantastic. Are you bringing anybody out from the shop? Are we going to get to meet any of your staff?
Nope. Right now it's just going to be myself from the shop.
Oh,
I've not been to the conference before, so I'm excited to go.
Yeah.
I want to go kind of feel things out and understand how it flows. It'd be great to have people go with me in the future. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we're lucky. We got a couple of shops are bringing out. Some of them are bringing out their whole team, and so it's really good because we like to get also. We always have good strong digital shop owners giving the breakouts and and teaching classes, but we're also lucky to have service writers and even techs come out, right, and teach classes and stuff like that. And so, if you're thinking about bringing out some staff members and stuff like that, give us a call, talk to Dustin. We can accommodate you, and everybody's going to take away some good value and bring it back to the shop. So yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing your class, Devin. I know we got a lot of interest in it. We got some really strong lineup this year of people that are in similar situation. Matter of fact, I think we're talking with Fred next week on Digital Shop Talk Radio. He's gonna be talking about staffing, and kind of what we're talking about here is, it's such a struggle right now to find good people and to keep them. And there's some really smart ways, and you heard a little bit of it here today on how to be able to do that and incentivize and build that culture to where they're actually attracting more people in instead of trying to, build a revolving door for you. So that's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about your schedule, because I know you had mentioned to Dustin, I think that you had some pretty strong opinions, or maybe you've tried out and kind of tested out between being open 5 days and 6 days. And what are your current hours, and how's that working for you, and why?
All right, current hours, we're open 11 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and 8 hours on Saturday. So it's 63 hours
Wow.
during the week. That's a lot of hours. And that comes with its challenges and its benefits.
Yeah.
And my last shop, we were 5 days a week. And just the same, it came with its challenges and benefits.
And so what was the decision making? So did you just kind of open 4 hours or something on Saturday at first and give it a shot, and then you saw yourself turning away business, so you went 8?
Nope. All Star was a brand that was established before I came on board, and they were already 6 days a week. So there was a lot of things in place that supported the sixth day.
And what's the biggest challenge? I mean, so you're fully staffed on Saturday, and you run it just like any other day. And do you see that you're getting? I mean, are you busier, or do you find yourself already having the appointments booked out and some waiters on Saturdays, or are you having to get on the phones or market to fill Saturdays?
Saturdays can be a tough thing for me
Yeah.
to assess really well, because we'll have carryover from the Friday in the week. So in my data is some skewed information. So I'm working on finding different ways to get a very realistic view of what we're really accomplishing on Saturdays. That's kind of tough.
Yeah, because I've always been worried. The thing that would worry me, right, is that, hey, I can drag my feet. It's Friday, and I know I'm coming in tomorrow morning anyway, and I can finish this thing out. And all of a sudden, I got a carryover on Friday that I probably could have pushed out, right? And then once or twice maybe okay, but if that becomes kind of the norm, then you develop that kind of that reputation. I'd love to go there, but I really like my car back on Friday night, so no. And so you got to kind of manage that. How do you stay on top of that from and again, I guess you could probably just see it right in the data on Friday. If we're pulling strong from noon on, right, and we're getting meeting our promise times, then yay. But do you see that there's a kind of a loss of productivity or efficiency on Friday afternoons?
I don't know if I'm seeing that. I assume we're going to have some of that, because we really design our Saturdays before we get there for the most part. Like we do most days, we have a target of 15 appointments we set in any given day. We reduce that for the Saturday, and we're not fully staffed on Saturdays. Okay. We only have one flat rate technician, and 1 to 2 general service technicians and 2 service advisors. And that's a drastic reduction of our normal capacity. That has its challenges and its benefits. One of the benefits is that those people that are off on the Saturday, they have that day off. All of us only work 5 days a week. So if we work a Saturday, we have a weekday off.
Kind of rotating through.
Yeah. And that has some challenges when it comes to scheduling, because we only really have 1 day a week for the most part where everybody's there.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things we talk about, is if we were 5 days and we have everybody there, how much more smoothly would this place run? How could we, we may be able to find there's more production there. At the same time, when I had a 5-day week shop, I had people who would take off during the week for doctor's appointments and things like that, because I don't have a weekday off. So there's 2 sides to that coin. And we do, like I was saying, design the Saturday. So midday Friday, we're really paying attention to how much we have scheduled for Saturday compared to how much carryover we anticipate having. So we have a decent amount of control over that. And when we set those daily numbers of appointments, it's so that we know we can typically have the option of bringing in 3 to 5 walk-ins or tow-ins. And so we typically have control of the throttle pretty well. There's always the unexpected. We all know that. That's hard to plan for.
Yeah, that's an interesting challenge, right? Because gosh, the Saturday guy could just be the guy that gets all the stuff dumped on him, and then like you said, then you got the walk-ins and the tow-ins, and I'm swamped, and there's nobody here to help me, and so you really have to think smart, I guess, on Friday, to really set them up for success for the next day. Type of work you're booking, if you can get as many parts on the shelf or stuff, in the mix for tomorrow as possible, and just kind of do a lot of that pre-work. It just really, I guess, would help them from an efficiency perspective and a productivity perspective, actually, come in and bang it out on Saturday and then make it something that is valuable and it's seen as an opportunity to the team. So, because that's really the key, right? Is if it's an opportunity and they see the value, well, then they'll make it valuable and they'll give the performance and the work. And on a Saturday, it makes Saturday very successful, especially when you are contractually obligated to keep the doors open on Saturday. You gotta rock and roll. Do you get what about from a marketing perspective? How are you reaching out? Are you doing exit scheduling and then keeping Saturdays in mind as you're doing those exit schedules to kind of try to fill in, I guess some gravy work or something like that on the Saturdays to make it even that much easier for the operator?
So we're not actually doing a whole lot of exit scheduling right now. I've changed and implemented so much this year that I'm trying to be very careful about what I implement and when. Years past, I've been guilty of being way too progressive and changing things so fast that nobody knew what was left and what was right and what I was expecting and what we're all supposed to be doing. So using that experience, this year I've tried to be really careful how much I implement, how much that is new, because there's been a lot of things that were new. And so we're not in a very official way or in a very consistent way doing exit scheduling. When we get to do that, that's going to be a really powerful tool. I've used that tool before in my previous business, and it was incredibly powerful and helped us with control. So again, we're not doing exit scheduling consistently right now. So that's just another piece of low-hanging fruit that we have, but I anticipate that being able to help us control things.
Well, yeah, good. And I know a place where you can get a really good perspective on exit scheduling and some help, at least some good ideas. And that would be at the Digital Shop Conference when you come out next month, because I'm sure, you're going to hear some, and you see it in the Facebook forum all the time, but there's some pretty strong opinions about that. And it really does boil down to, can you handle it? What's my shop? What's my model like? And what's my demographic like, right? To be able to be, highly effective at the exit scheduling. And it is a pretty big process change, right? It does take a big buy-in from the guys up front and,
sure.
and conditioning of the customer, really. But the good thing is once you get there, then it's a machine, right?
And it becomes natural.
Yeah.
Once you get past some of the buy-in challenges and make it consistent, it becomes natural. It's just a normal thing. And once it feels like a normal thing, it is just a normal thing. There's no big deal. Yeah, because wouldn't that be great, right? Is your customers get done, they come in for pickup, and they're just standing there waiting for their next appointment. Yeah.
Kind of like we do at the dentist office, right? Go up to the front, give them the paper. Okay, I'm good. Next, 4 months from now, whatever. No, that's fantastic. Yeah. So, interesting. It's a great to see. Just how smart you are about the implementation of these things, right? There's a lot of wisdom there. There's been some trial and error, and it's quick to understand that, you crack that throttle too much and you flood it out, right? And you're in trouble. And it's really just a controlled and metered application of these process changes. Let the habits get developed. Let them stick, test them that they're there, because that's the real test, right, Devin? Is that when, like you said, when those unknowns, those something's on fire, something blows up, that's really the test to is your process sticky? Did your people follow that same thing, or did they go back to, hair on fire mode and just start, doing what they used to do just to survive? How do you test it? And have you been through that test to where you're confident in it, obviously enough to where you're going to come out the Digital Shop Conference, right? And kind of let the crew steer the ship.
Well, I think that in some ways the tests happen on their own daily. And I look at that through consistency of everyone's implementation. When we implement something new, like for instance, we were just talking last week about adding notes to pictures.
Yeah.
It's something that I'll do a lot of follow-up on. Anything that's going to become a habit, we have to do it for a while before it can become a habit. And an important part of that is my follow-up in talking about our expectations and our performance. And so I think watching it for a while to make sure it's consistent is very telling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great indicator. Do you do things like secret shopper or whisper on the phone or anything like that to, try to make sure that, when the boss isn't looking, that they're consistent?
Not typically. The data tells me a lot of what I need to know. I spot check inspections, and that gives me a lot of information. I'll jump in on estimates and look at the notes from the technician, or I'll just audit some inspection reports that are either in progress or have already been sent. Since I know how to perform those tasks myself, I'm not going to say I'm as good as my team. They're real rock stars, but I can look at an inspection and understand how it flowed at the time, just by seeing the technician's notes, seeing what the advisor edited, and seeing what went to the customer in what way. I'll look at it from the customer perspective and then the shop perspective, and that's really telling.
And then what's the follow-up with the customer? I mean, do you pull your customers regularly, send out surveys, or just get out when you see them in the waiting room and go talk to them and just kind of ask them how that experience has been, to try to get an idea of consistency across visits?
I use a software online that sends them a text message 3 days after service that asks essentially what their level of satisfaction was with things. That helps a lot. Not everybody will respond to those text messages, so it doesn't get 100% of the customers, but a large number of them. And you know how people that had a bad experience somewhere, they're going to talk a lot about that. They're usually pretty willing to say something. I get some good feedback there. And we have a lot of customers that rant and rave about our service. They just love us. And when you have people that passionate about a positive experience, they're willing to speak up too. And that's what's nice about the follow-up, though, is I get the in-between, because that in-between, really mad and really happy, is some really good stuff. And so, yeah, we send out text messages to everybody, and I respond to those, and that can be a lot to keep up with sometimes. And I think it's an important thing that it's done, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, for folks out there, and you're right, it is, but it's time well spent. You should be responding 100% of the time, and you should respond publicly, right, as much as possible to those online reviews. And why? Because you get an opportunity to put information into your responses, things like the year, make, and model, things that Google likes to find. Right. And if you can do that, and so not only does it show that you're open and that you're willing to work with folks, and hey, stuff happens. And when you do have maybe, an issue with somebody, it's great to be public that, hey, I was out there trying to make it right. Whether the person was going to work with you or not is irrelevant, right? We see that stuff all the time in our own shopping experiences and online research and stuff. Oh my gosh, that guy sounds like a crazy person. That poor baker was trying to do everything he could to make a new cake, right? That guy just wouldn't have it. And then you say, and then it actually works in your favor. You say, well, this guy, this guy went through heck trying to get this guy, happy. And I think I'm going to come down and do business with them. So that's one aspect. But the other side of it is that you get to put good keywords in your responses, and they go online, and then that stuff gets found when people are searching and things like that. And what a great introduction to your business to find a review where you're responding and thanking somebody, or managing somebody who isn't happy, as my first introduction to you, instead of just your sign or your coupon or something like that, right? Is really a strong introduction. And so, long diatribe to say, respond 100% of the time to all your online reviews. 100% of the time. If you got to do it at midnight, just do it. It's going to pay off, and it's going to continue to pay off for you in the long run.
I just wanted to add, for a long time, I'd feel very, very stressed about a bad review, and I still take them extremely seriously, good or bad. And I've found some peace in being accepting of a 1-star review, because we're human. Everybody is, and people understand that when they see it. If anybody would like to see All-Star Automotive reviews on Google, we're in Columbia, Missouri. I'd encourage you to look at them. And I feel like any 1-star review that we get is an opportunity for us to be transparent and show people how we deal with adversity and how we really want to help. So I found peace in accepting the 1-star reviews, not as something that ruined my weekend when I found out on Friday evening, but something that gave me an opportunity to show people who we are when things don't go 100% properly. Yeah. So if anybody wants to see those, I'd encourage you to take a look. I'm no master review responder, but I'm human, and you might be able to see what seemed like it worked for me or didn't. So
Yeah, hey, it's like you said, everybody gets to learn a little bit from everybody else, but yeah, it is critical. And if you think about it, you put yourself, because you do the same thing. You've gone to a business that you've done business with and are happy to do business with, or a restaurant where you loved your dinner and you see these bad reviews. It's about the number, right? And it's about, like you said, it's about what are those owners doing to respond to that stuff. If you saw all 5-star reviews, you'd automatically think it's just fake, right? It's
A little suspicious.
Scam.
I've seen it, and I've some of those been great companies, but I think sometimes it looks a little suspicious.
Yeah, it looks suspicious. You tend to move on, and then when there's something, 4.5 stars, okay, now I get it. They're human. Their stuff happens, but look, they're responsive, and that's all I really care about. And the vast majority is, because that's the other thing, is if you have some of those, or if you're trying to rebuild from some, maybe a chain of bad reviews, you had a guy, and he's gone or whatever, you bought a business. It's about the volume, right? And here's the funny thing is, we're still kind of stuck in the old ways, right? Where, people, I don't want to ask them for a review. They'll leave one if they want to. But you know what? If you think about it, it's a tool that we use every single day ourselves. We read those reviews. We rely on those reviews. So then again, of course, I'm going to leave a review, because it's adding to that tool that we all use collectively. And so the attitudes have really changed, and you'd be surprised if you just build into your process, that's part of that exit scheduling, and you just build it into your pickup script, to ask for the review, or make it easy to suggest how they can leave you that review. Oh my gosh, you'll see reviews go from, 20-30% if you're lucky, up to 70-80% of folks leaving reviews. It's just how you ask them. You just have to be willing to ask them.
Yep, it really helps combat that natural tendency we have to want to have an outlet when we're really frustrated. That's why I think some people are quicker to put something negative on there, because they need an outlet. Yeah. They didn't feel like they were really listened to, or somebody didn't take them seriously enough. And so by asking the people that had a great experience to put that out there, it helps balance those energies out. That's really important.
Yeah, exactly. Oh shoot, we're over. Hey, that's easy. It's easy to go over when you got Devin Kelley on your show. Thanks a lot, Devin. I appreciate you having you on. I'm really excited to see you next month, out at the Digital Shop Conference. And until then, like Devin said, go look him up. He's in Columbia, Missouri, all-star. Take a look at his website. Take a look at his reviews. Give him a call if you got some questions for him, or you have something maybe we didn't cover on the show today. Devin's very open and just looking to help, other people in the same boat be successful. We all row together.
Absolutely. And I'm human just like the rest of us. I don't consider myself any magical shop owner or anything like that. I'm no genius. I just see a lot of good stuff and I try to write it down. I've got great coaches like Paul Marsh at ATI and Bill Connor there at Auto Vitals, and all you guys at Auto Vitals are amazing. So just be a sponge, and there's great stuff out there. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Devin. Tune in next week. We're going to be talking with Fred Guestwicki. We're going to be talking about staffing, some creative ways. I don't want to say creative. I want to say successful, savvy ways and techniques of recruiting. And so Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Until then, get out there and make some money. Thanks a lot, Devin. Thanks, Dustin.
Thank you.